Welcome to another episode of The Artsy Raven, a show about writing and publishing with your host, J.F. Garrard.
Welcome to another episode of the Artsy Raven, and today our special guest is M.A.C. Farrant. So Marion Farrant has been writing and publishing since the 1980s. 18 works of fiction, nonfiction and memoir, 2 produced plays, countless book reviews for the Vancouver Sun and Toronto Globe and Mail, and over a dozen chapbooks. Along with Pauline Holdstock, she ran the Sidney Reading Series from 1994 to 2009. Her books have been a finalist for many awards, among them the Commonwealth Writers' Prize, the Ethel Wilson Fiction Prize, 2 Jessie Richardson Theatre Awards, the Van City Book Prize, the National Magazine Awards, the ReLit Award, the Gemini Awards for the Bravo short film adaptation of her story, Rob's Guns and Ammo, and the Victoria Book Prize 3 times, the last of which she won in 2014 for her collection of miniature fiction, The World Afloat. Her 2021 nonfiction book, One Good Thing, was a BC bestseller. In 2024, Talon Books will issue the 20th anniversary edition of her memoir, My Turquoise Years. Farrant is well known for her acerbic wit and laugh-out-loud humor. Sheila Munro has called her Canada's most acerbic and intelligent humorist. Bill Richardson has called her a master of the Zenlike art of delivering weight in a way that is featherlight, further noting that she's the most accomplished and unapologetic miniaturist in Canadian letters. So welcome, Marion.
Good morning.
Oh gosh, I'm looking at you've won a lot of awards here, so you've been writing for a while.
Yes, I started publishing in the 1980s, and God, that seems like a long time ago now, but yeah, it's a long time. It's a long, when you start writing, you're like I was, you start from being absolutely nobody. Nobody knows you. Nobody, you're one of a enormous group of people attempting to get published. And in those days, the usual route to getting published was to submit to literary magazines and get little bits and pieces here and there in various magazines, and then gather together all those sort of credits and approach a publisher. And this is the route I took. And so I had my first book published in 1991 with Thistledown Press. And how I chose, or they chose me, I should say, Thistledown Press, was that I sent query letters to every publisher in Canada that I had a list of. And in those analog days, you go to the library and get a list of all the publishers, the big ones, the middle ones, and the little ones. And I sent letters to all of them with an overview and a couple of sample chapters, sample stories. And I got no response from the big publisher, but from the middle and the smaller publishers, I got about, maybe 10 or 12 replies. And I picked the one that had the nicest letterhead, because in that day we were all doing this by mail, and Thistledown had this beautiful mauve paper, and it looked very professional. And so that's the one I sent my stories to, and they published them in 91. And the book was called Sick Pigeon. It was fiction, short fiction.
Now, did you take any classes on your journey of writing, or were you just a natural?
I took one class. I was in my 30s, and this is something I always wanted to do and always intended to do, was to be a writer. Before that, I'd had a kind of very, I worked as a social worker, for example, and I worked with emotionally disturbed children. I worked running a publishing and film company for a local fisherman who had quite a little, business going. But I always wanted to be the writer. And so when I got in my 30s, I thought, it's time to, either I'm going to do it now, or I don't want to get, be in my 70s and think, oh my God, I didn't do it. I really wanted to do this, and I didn't. Yeah. So yes, I took one class at UVic, in Department of Writing, it was called at the time. And I took an advanced fiction course with Leon Rook, who at that time was a very well-known writer, winner of Governor General's Award, quite an eccentric writer and a dazzling figure. And I love that course. It basically was a pat on the back and an affirmation that yes, you've got the stuff. And he told me to go crazy. And so I took that and I ran with it, because that was the only time I did take a workshop, but it was very useful, especially for the kind of, support and cheerleading I got. And from him, I got a first contact to my first publication. So that was really nice as well.
Well, now you just recently released another book, the Jigsaws.
Yes.
So you talk a little bit about why you wrote it and
Yeah.
to it?
Since the pandemic, I guess it was what, 2020, I've been more and more struck by the dichotomy between the global situation, which is, fearful and horrendous and troubling and bewildering and overwhelming. And that we are, through media news bombarded with on a daily basis. And I wanted to pit that against the personal, in that we need to carry on with our lives. We need to remain and remember that there is love in the world, there is joy, there's raising children, there's happiness, there's all of this other side that I saw was tending to get buried. So I wrote a book called One Good Thing, and it was based on gardening, and it was a nonfiction book, and it was really trying to address these twin, concerns of mine. And as it turns out, I have a great love of not gardening, but I learned an awful lot, and I was able to use a local gardener's column, which she publishes twice a week in our local paper, with her permission, to use as a platform to bounce off of and talk about other things. So from that, 2 years later, friends, we were still in the pandemic. I guess we still are. But in 2021, friends lent me Christmas 2 jigsaw puzzles. Now, I had not done a jigsaw puzzles for like 20 years, and I failed horribly at it. And these were elite jigsaw puzzles from England called Wentworth Wooden Puzzles. And they gave them to me to help take my mind off of, case counts and death tolls and, what was happening next. And I found I really enjoyed them. They were just partly meditative. They were wonderfully focusing, and you could get up and leave them and come back to them. And so from that, I became interested in jigsaw puzzles. I thought, I started researching, doing a little bit of research. And I found that in the year 2019, something like the global dollar value of jigsaw sales was $9.7 billion. And that in the United States for that year, 7 jigsaw puzzles are sold every minute. I mean, these are astounding figures. And I thought, gosh, what is going on here? So I started writing about jigsaw puzzles, and very quickly realized that there are fabulous metaphors for looking at the puzzles, which are, the puzzle that is the miracle of our lives, why we are here and how we experience our lives, and all the many aspects of that. So that's basically where the book Jigsaw Puzzle in 93 Pieces came from. There are 93 entries, and many are short. Mostly they're short. And they attempt to mimic putting together a jigsaw puzzle. As you would, you take pieces, and where does this fit and where does this fit? And so it's highly, it's highly personal to me, but it's also, I think, speaking of the bigger picture. So that's where I came to with that.
Now you write books and smaller pieces. Like, which
Mhm.
do you prefer? Like, is it easier to write one or the other, you think?
Well, I think it's the poet in me. Really, I do like I like minimalism. I like minimalism in my environment, um, and I like the rigor that comes with poetry and with my writing narrative fiction, either fiction or nonfiction. Um, I need to cut to the chase. I like to weed out everything that is not central to the germ of what I want to say. And I like to be surprising. I like to surprise myself. So, um, and I like to delight myself with my, when I'm writing, because the whole process of writing for me is quite exciting, because it's a business of discovery. I'm always following my nose. I don't know what I'm going to come up with next. So, for example, when I was writing the Jigsaw book, I didn't really know it was going to be about what it turned out to be about. And it's the same with most books I write. And for me, that's the only way to write is I don't have a paint by number kind of mentality. Although some of those books are fine, they work well. But for me, it's the minimalist, the more Zen-like um, aspect of my writing that draws me in.
Now, all the different awards that you won, like, was it the publisher that enters you? Is that how it works?
Yes, it is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You sell writers seldom send off their own books to unless I maybe now with independent publishing, I'm sure um that's allowable. I don't know, it depends on the rules of each prize sort of thing, whether they allow independent books. But now I noticed recently there's an independent book prize. So they're getting recognized as well. So that's good too.
Now, are you working on any other projects lately? Are you working on a novel? Are you working on more miniatures?
I'm working on another project, but I'm not sure what it's going to be. I'm just having just come off writing this and promoting this book, Jigsaw,
Mhm.
and with another one in the works for next year, which is a reprint, a 20th anniversary edition of a memoir called My Turquoise Years, which I'm adding 5 new nonfiction stories too, and we're altering it a little bit. So there's work to be done on that. And meanwhile, I'm writing some short things, and I'm not sure what they're going to look like because it's early days yet.
Now, do you have any advice for people that can't finish their book?
Oh gosh, I came across, well, first of all, I'll say persistence and patience and focus and belief in yourself. Um, have to be commitment to the project, have to be top of the list. But I last summer picked up this book by, you've probably heard of it, excuse me, by Rick Rubin, called The Creative Act, A Way of Being. You can see that.
Oh,
And
yes, I
it's,
was thinking about that. Yes.
yeah, I really recommend it for anybody that's trying to be a creative. It's so affirming. It's so positively, lovingly, in a way, gently giving advice as to what to do when you're blocked, or how to begin a project, and all this sort of thing. And I thought, oh gosh, I've been doing all these things, most of my writing life. Well, how useful, how affirming is that, and I think so many people can get, that are attempting to be writers or artists of any stripe, could get lots of, you know, pearls of wisdom from this book. So that's one thing.
Okay, Marion, you're going to do a bit of a reading for us. Can you describe a little bit of what you're reading to give us some context and show us the book as well? Or...
Okay, well, this is the book. It has a lovely picture of a cow on the cover. Um, And the cow is on the cover because while I was writing the book, and this is when I was talking about being surprising yourself and keeping the doors open and letting come in what wants to come in. And while I was writing the book, cows kept sort of popping up in my imagination, or I'd be online and I'd see pictures of cows. And they, for some reason, I really engaged and responded to them. And I think it's because they represented a sort of earthiness and a solidness and a groundedness. And it was so much fun, this cow business. So I found a picture of a cow and I presented it to Talon. And so they put it on the cover, and rather than try to find a jigsaw appropriate one, because this could be a jigsaw puzzle. In fact, my husband had a jigsaw puzzle made for me this Christmas on this jigsaw. So, how surreal is that? A jigsaw puzzle of a jigsaw, a book about jigsaw puzzles. So that was a lot of fun. So I guess the book itself is it covers things like puzzle states and I'm just writing regular puzzle pieces and different puzzles. One's called Puzzles for Brains, and there's whimsy pieces throughout the book. Whimsy is the name of a puzzle piece in the Wentworth wooden puzzles, and they're oddly shaped puzzle pieces that are thematically connected to the picture that you're working on. So say if it's a picture of a beach scene, and in the summer, there'll be oddly shaped pieces of, say, a treasure chest or a big fish or an ice cream cone, that sort of thing. So these whimsy pieces happen throughout the book, and they mainly are the anchoring pieces that talk about the history of jigsaw puzzles and various aspects like that. Also, there's over 30 photographs and drawings by a very talented woman by the name of Andrea Bennett did the drawings, and I took the photos. And what struck me when this is again another example of being open, was on my walks, I would notice, it was winter when I was writing this, all the cracked roads there were, and they all looked like jigsaw puzzles in, if I could find one for you. It was really, it's startling to see. Here's one, and if you can see that. Can you see that very well? Okay, that's just a road near our house, and it looks like a jigsaw puzzle. So anyway, I thought maybe I'll read some of the cow pieces because they're fun. This summer, in promoting the book, I created this for the Winnipeg Writers Festival. They asked us to do 3 videos because we were doing it virtually. And so I had the idea that I would do a literary cow festival, and had my son, who's a big guy, dress up in a cow costume. And I gave him the name of Bill Bovine. His name is Bill. Bill Bovine interviewed me for the Literary Cow Festival. And actually, there's a picture piece in BC Book World, and I'm going to show you this. I don't know if you can see all this in this.
That's fine.
Okay, there's me and Bill Bovine. Can you see that?
Wow, yes.
Well, we had a lot of fun doing that, and if I just bear with me, gosh, I'm using up my time, aren't I?
No problem, it's okay.
Page 45. So we have pictures of cows, we have pictures, drawings of cows, we have all kinds of, okay, this one is with reference to cows. Those are Andrea Bennett's drawings. So I'll read this piece then.
Sure.
We believe that cows experience eternity by living in a perpetual now. Doing so, they achieve a kind of grace, an unintended cow satori. And they are so unlike ourselves today, driving through rain to get the weekly eggs while worrying about Barbara. Will she invite us to her annual party, which is catered and includes live music and clowns on stilts? Or will we once again be left off the guest list? We know it is remiss of us to dwell on Barbara and allow our well-being to be tied to her in this way. We know there is the whole of life to inhabit, one that includes people who are not Barbara, and also the myriad things that are rumored to be out there: blades of grass, trees, bark, small bugs, worms, clouds, and the like. But if by some miracle we are invited to Barbara's party, I will wear my sequin dress and matching neon red lipstick. You, your pink and yellow dancing shoes. This is a puzzle about the difficulty of attaining cow satori. I'll read a bit from the beginning called Puzzle States. Time loss is often associated with putting together a jigsaw puzzle. On the website, The Mindful Word, Angela Pajovic says this about the effect they have on her. My perfect perception of time, along with my ability to think of anything but the task at hand, is completely lost. I'm living in the moment, and no external factors can distract me. But can her statement about losing the perception of time be true? Calming. Jigsaw puzzles can be a source of mental exercise and even comfort, as any puzzle enthusiast will tell you. They can also have a soothing effect upon you as a glass of warm milk before bedtime, or taking 0.5 milligram of sublingual adaptation at any time of the day or night, as I will tell you. Still, if the statistics are correct, 21 million puzzles sold worldwide in a single year means a lot of agitated people needed to calm themselves down. Control. Jigsaw puzzles are something we can control, unlike most of life, and most definitely unlike time. Upon completion, a jigsaw puzzle is a puzzle solved. When this happens, the feeling you experience is one of out-of-your-mind joy, as if you have just won a big prize. Journey. Working on a jigsaw puzzle is like riding on a train. It's a single-track experience. Over and over, you are sorting through and then interlocking puzzle pieces, all the while loving or hating where you are in the process. But this can be an exciting thing to do because your journey has a destination. Completion of the puzzle means you will have reached the end. Unlike your life, you know exactly where the end is. Leaping beyond the rational. The word puzzle can be used as a metaphor, and this is useful because metaphors attempt to describe the unknown, the unanswerable, and the beautiful, and we want to understand these things. Puzzle of good and evil, of staying sane, of discord, of love, of why are we here, of what happens next, of what do we know, where will we go. My mother-in-law, Sarah, for example, made a metaphor out of her dislike of birds. They're like imprisoned souls, she said, trying to get to heaven. And I'll cut that off there. Do you want any more? Is that
Sure, well, you read one more.
One
They're
more?
all like short pieces. You can sort of pick it up and start
That's
there,
right.
right?
That's right. Okay, this is so I did a after I discovered the that jigsaw puzzles appeared to me in roads as I was walking along. I did quite a number of them in the book, along with quite a number of cow pieces and whimsy pieces and this sort of thing. So this puzzle is called Wet, and I don't know how well you can see that picture, but it's just a wet road. Here is a picture of a wet road. Large puzzles, dividing line, cement curb. Taken the same day our septic tank was pumped, and shortly after the pumping had finished. I was walking off a large feeling of shame. I took the picture to remind myself of an abiding puzzle. Why have we, once again, fallen below some random standard of decency? The guy who did the pumping told us our septic tank was the worst clogged septic tank he had ever seen. It had been pumped only 6 years ago. How could that be? It was full of toilet paper, the pumper said with disgust, thick with it. My face became hot. I thought toilet paper deteriorated, I said. Apparently not, said Terry, my husband, and walked away, a stricken man. The shame over the septic tank was the same shame I have felt at other times. The pet groomer, for example, who said our old cat Bob had the worst case of mats she'd ever seen, as if we'd been abusing him for years when we always loved Bob so much. And we had tried to stay on top of the mats. We had brushed him all the time. The groomer wasn't impressed. It was the same with Sal, the man from Fidelity Carpet Cleaning, when he came to clean the one in the living room. He took one look at our old dog and said, "I smell urine." Out of shame, we bought the more expensive pet-proofing package. Shame is supposed to be one of the most devastating emotions, right up there with fear, hate, and revenge. But emotions, I am told, both the good and the bad ones, remain in our bodies for only 90 seconds before they dissolve like water vapor or smoke. Unless, of course, we feed them, especially the bad emotions, keeping them alive through obsessive thinking. Sometimes an old hurt or regret or rage remains for years at a time as a time-devouring monster living within us because we keep reliving the situation that caused the original monster to occur. On the afternoon I took this picture, I was clogged with shame. It's odd. I had always thought my life was going to be your run-of-the-mill fantasy musical about having babies. I hadn't counted on septic tanks, cat mats, or dog urine as being part of the puzzle.
Lovely. Like when you say, the writing like Zenlike, I see you sort of meditating on these situations before you put the words together.
Yeah, and while I'm writing them, yeah. And I'll read one more cow piece
Sure.
if you've got time. It's just very short. This is reference to cows number 3. Today, the cow says to me, it feels good to be on this side of the fence. It feels good to be the cow that appears in your mind's eye while you sit at your desk ruminating over the hard questions. Unlike us, you will never know for certain what your experience means. You are obsessed with time and your attempts to slow it down. You are haunted and weep easily, are troubled and often make mistakes. You are always looking to overpass your enlarging confusion. Cows like me understand your current frame of reference, one that is infused with news narratives, entertainment narratives, terror narratives. So it feels good to be on this side of the fence and anthropomorphizing about you for a change and showing care and interest in your well-being by offering solace, something everyone in the human family needs right now. Being a cow, the cow says, you must be kind about it. A puzzle about empathy.
Well, thank you very much, Marion. It was lovely listening to all your poems. Now, one thing I didn't ask you, M.A.C.
Yes,
Marion.
Alice Coburn.
Okay, okay.
All my names. Yeah, when I was first publishing, there were a lot of M writers. There were Margarets, there were Marions, there were Maureen's, there were so
Oh, okay.
so I thought, oh, not another Marion. So use that. And my father growing up was always WD, so I just followed in that line.
Oh, lovely. Well, it was lovely to meet you, and thank you very much once again for reading
Oh,
to
thank you.
us.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
For more upcoming episodes of the Artsy Raven about writing and publishing, visit us at jfgarrard.com/arpodcast. A reminder to Patreon subscribers that there is bonus content available for every episode on the Patreon website. If you enjoyed the show, you can show your appreciation by buying us some digital coffee. The Artsy Raven is produced by J.F. Garrard. The voice in the show's introduction is Chris Gorman, and music is by Tim Moore. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, stay safe.